Before 2025, I had only read about 6 books in my life. And then in 2025, I read about 60. So I wanted to tier rank 45 of the books that got me into reading. First, I gotta give a shout out to Phil Got Books and Ian Gubelli. Those two are what inspired this video. Two of my favorite booktubers. I saw that they made this list. Both of them, great videos that they put out. All of these did get me into reading, but some of them I didn't love. To where they're not just books that I love that turn me into a reader, but really they were kind of just the first 45 books I read. Let's just get it started. These are the 45 books that turn me into a reader. My first ever book that I read outside of school, we got Dune. These two political parties try to get the power over a spice on this planet called Arrakis, where there's not much water. It's kind of a desert planet. And our main character, Paul, he gets too powerful, basically. One of the forefathers of fantasy. Nope, sci-fi. This is easily S tier. I mean, it's what got me into reading, and it's just a dang good book. I mean, I put it in my top 10 books of all time. Might as well go into the next book, which was Dune Messiah. Dune Messiah, I actually like more than Dune, which a lot of people disagree with. It's just a hot take. I just love the philosophical aspect of it. I liked it more than Dune, so going S tier again. Dark Matter by Blake Crouch. Dark Matter is just this mind-bending sci-fi novel where this guy gets kidnapped and he doesn't know where he's at, but then it's a sci-fi thriller. I really don't think I can tell you more than that. I really enjoyed this. I did audiobook only. This was my first audiobook ever. I thought this was good. I don't think it's anything crazy. I think I like Recursion more by him. I'm gonna go B tier. I know a lot of people have Dark Matter as one of their top books of all time. I liked it. I didn't love it. It was really fun though. This was about the time where I was taking literature classes in college. Goodbye Columbus by Philip Roth. This is a class difference romance with a more assimilated Jewish person in the 20th century and a working class Jewish person. And it's a beautiful story. I cried a few times. It's one of the most realistic depictions of a relationship I've ever seen. I loved it. I think this is gonna go in A tier. This is maybe my favorite romance ever. The Sun Also Rises by Ernest Hemingway. This was my only Hemingway I've ever read. I loved it. It's basically that generation, the lost generation, where they just don't know what to do after the war. And it follows some morally gray, morally ambiguous characters. You're not supposed to really like them, but you're just seeing how they deal with that after World War I. And it takes place in France, I believe. As I think about it more, I put it in my top 10 books. It was a really good book. It wasn't enjoyable per se, so I don't think I can put it into A tier. One of the best written books I've ever read, not one of my favorites. Another one I read in college for the same course actually, all three of these, was The Nickel Boys by Colson Whitehead. This follows two black kids in the Jim Crow South, and they go to this abusive reform school, but it was a real school, it was based off a real school, and it's a brutal read. But it showed that they can persevere through that, and it changed my life because I'm like, if they can go through all of this, I feel like I can deal with a few inconveniences in my life. This is S tier. This is in my top 3 books I've ever read. I love The Nickel Boys so much, and it got me into historical fiction. There was another course I took in college. It was Monsters and Monstrosity, Interview with the Vampire by Anne Rice. This basically follows the story of a new vampire. They have to deal with being immortal, but also in the real world, seeing how they deal with outlasting people that they might be surrounded with. And then we got one of the most famous vampires in fiction in Lestat. I think I'm gonna go B tier. This is another one I had in my top 10 books of all time. Like if this was the first book I ever read, I don't know how much more I would have read, but it was a really good book and I really enjoyed it. I think a reread would be amazing for it. The other one in that class that I read was Misery by Stephen King. I tried reading this in high school. It's one of my dad's favorites that he read when he was younger. And he gave me a copy. I brought it to school and I never ended up reading it. But we read it in this college course and I really enjoyed it. Annie is one of the most just like sinister villains that I've read. Basically, this author, he gets caught in a snowstorm and Annie Wilkins, finds him and she's one of his biggest fans. She's definitely his biggest fan. And she takes him in, she takes care of him. It's creepy, it's scary, but really good characters. This is A tier. I loved Misery, but it's one of the only horror thrillers I've read and I loved it. The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson. Brandon Sanderson, one of the most popular fantasy authors. This was my first fantasy book ever and it's like 1,200 pages, which is crazy. Essentially, the Stormlight Archive is about these powers and these legends. Everybody thought that they were gone, but then we see these powers come back up. and our main characters are intertwined with that. There's a political scheme. The Wave Kings got me into fantasy. I love it so much. This is S tier as well. It's just so good. I started Red Rising. If you don't know what Red Rising is, it's a sci-fi series, and there's a trilogy, but then Pierce Brown, the author, ended up wanting to write more. So there's 3 more, and then the last one is coming out in the next couple years. I don't want to spoil anything. I genuinely think anything. I'll tell you one thing. It's about a tyrannical government. There's class systems set up by the colors of their eyes. That's all I'm going to say. It's probably only B tier, if I'm being honest. It's a great book. Compared to the others, Pierce will say this. He wrote this just to try to get into the dystopian YA genre, and then the others go off from there. Book 2, Golden Sun. At the time, when I read this, was my favorite book ever. Probably A tier, just because I think Red Rising just gets better and better every book. Morningstar, which I read all 3 of these back to back to back. Man, I don't read series back to back anymore. I read Red Rising in a week. I read Golden Sun in like 2 days, and then I read Morningstar in like 4 days. It's probably A tier. It's probably about the same as Golden Sun. It made me cry. It finished off the trilogy, I think, perfectly. So, great book. I started Words of Radiance. I didn't finish it until a few months later, because these are thick books. And Stormlight Archive, I take a while to get through these. I'm just gonna say it, Words of Radiance, S tier. You know what, now that I'm doing this, I'm gonna move the Way of Kings down to A tier, just because Words of Radiance is a level up. It's just a level up, and it's one of the best endings in fantasy. So good. The slow burn, the last 400 pages are crazy. We're going back to Red Rising. Iron Gold, we picked this back up. This is A tier. If you think that Iron Gold is boring, I can maybe stand with that. If you think Iron Gold is a bad book, I disagree completely. It is an expanse of this great world that Pierce Brown created. It introduced multi-POV. The first couple were just the main character Darrow's POV, and then the second half is multi-POV with these new characters. I love Iron Gold. Shout out to Smitty. Y'all know Smitty if you're in the fantasy sci-fi book space. I found out about Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir by him. This book, man, I don't know if I've read something with such a good audiobook and like an immersive with the physical experience. I'll put the narrator's name on here because he deserves his flowers. So good. Best audiobook narrator I think I've ever experienced. This is A tier. This guy wakes up on a spaceship and he doesn't know what's going on. And it's a world-ending catastrophe. That's all I'm gonna leave you with. He doesn't know what's going on, the main character, so he finds out as we are. It's super cool. I think next was Kenobi by John Jackson Miller. This is a Star Wars novel in the Star Wars Expanded Universe. If you're not familiar with that, it's just novels about Star Wars. And this takes place after Revenge of the Sith for my prequels fans. This basically shows what he's up to on Tatooine after that. This is not just about him though, because the other main characters, one of my favorite female main characters in sci-fi, just a great look into the Star Wars universe. Again, this is A tier. I love this so much. Sci-fi, if you can't tell, was what I was into when I first started reading. I'm just gonna go to the other Star Wars novel that I read. This was The Rise of Darth Vader. This is by James Luceno. I did not read the first 2 in the Dark Lord trilogy because I just wanted to pick up after Revenge of the Sith. And so I read Kenobi and I read The Rise of Darth Vader. And this is so cool. You get to see into the mind of Vader after Revenge of the Sith. This is probably B tier for me. This was a really cool look. There's some cool lightsaber battles, and then we see some of the Jedi on the run after Order 66. Super cool. Dark Age by Pierce Brown. This is the next Red Rising installment after Iron Gold. This is book 5. This is S tier. This is where Red Rising is like peak sci-fi. Just war. It's just war. This is a great book. The Sun Eater series by Christopher Rocchio. And it starts with Empire of Silence. I loved Empire of Silence. People say this is slow. This basically follows Hadrian, and his father is pretty much this dictator, but he's more of a scholar. He leaves the planet that his father is in control of. He becomes a pirate, essentially. And we see the journey that he goes on. There are 7 books in the series, and I think this book is underrated. Empire of Silence, I loved Empire of Silence. This is gonna go in A tier. I think this is an underrated book 1. It's basically a prologue. I think I read Howling Dark right after Empire of Silence, also A tier. There's something about Howling Dark that it takes a step up and it expands the world a little bit more. It gets darker, Howling Dark. We see the real villains of this Sun Eater world. Some freaky people, dude. Freaky people in Howling Dark. The Blighted Stars, which is a super underrated book. Everybody needs to read this series. It's one of my favorite sci-fi trilogies. It's called the Devoured Worlds Trilogy. Tarquin, our main character, his father is almost a dictator. They are in control of this mineral, but they have to go to new planets to mine this mineral. This mineral lets you reprint people. You can do that in a new body or in the same body. And it's a really cool trilogy with great romance, kind of cyberpunk Lost in Space. The Blighted Stars, A tier. The first book in one of my favorite sci-fi trilogies. Back to Lightbringer by Pierce Brown. This is the final book in Red Rising that's out, and this is S tier. Lightbringer, top 10 books of all time in my opinion. This is peak sci-fi. It's just that good. Go read Red Rising. Let's go back to Sun Eater, and with Demon in White, this is book 3. This is also S tier. Demon in White, bro. This is where Sun Eater becomes my favorite sci-fi series, and Demon in White is my favorite sci-fi book of all time. Hold on. I just realized I can't put Dark Age on the same level as Demon in White and Lightbringer, so I'm moving that to A tier. Still love Dark Age though. Demon in White introduces one of the best sci-fi villains. It's that good. A lot of these were basically in the same 2 months, so I'm not going to. Oh, I forgot about The Lightning Thief by Rick Riordan. I read this like a year and a half ago. The Lightning Thief's a really fun book. It's Percy Jackson. It's the first book in the Percy Jackson series. We all know what it is. Greek gods. It's a son of the Greek god is Percy Jackson. This was a fun book. This was so cool reading this as somebody who didn't when he was younger. And I need to read the rest of them. I've only read book 1. Eventually, I'll finish the whole series. That might be a fun video to make, honestly. But yeah, B tier. It's a fun book. Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb. This is A tier. This is the first book in the realm of the Outerlings. This is a 16 book with a novella series. It is fantasy. Our main character, Fitz, he is born out of wedlock from Prince Chivalry. People think he shouldn't have power because he is, but he has royal blood still. And he becomes the assassin for the king. It's a really good first book, but then we get to Royal Assassin, and Royal Assassin is S tier. This is book 2 in the Farseer trilogy. It's more the same, but just a level up. In one of the most melancholic endings, but perfect. This is perfect fantasy. So good. I need to read book 3 soon. All right, then let's go to Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson. A lot of people say I should have started with Mistborn, and I low-key agree, because the whole time I was kind of comparing it to the Stormlight Archive, which is like the pinnacle of Brandon Sanderson, but I really like this. Mistborn is B tier as well. I really like this. This is the first book in this trilogy. Our main character, Vin, she is born on the streets, but then she learns she has powers. And somebody coming from the streets to powers, there's a whole lot of drama that goes on with that. A fantasy dystopian almost. The main villain is the leader of this world, the ruler. Vin has to overcome that. One of the most unique magic systems in fantasy, hands down. I liked Well of Ascension more. There's a little more romance. It's a lot of politics in the Well of Ascension. B tier. It's about the same as Mistborn for me. All right, let's go to Will the Many by James Islington. I liked Will the Many. This is B tier. It was fine. I thought that the dark academia aspect in the middle of it, where he goes to the academy finally, was really good. Viz is basically a foster kid, but he's in this world where they use will. It's a power system where they get their magic from other people, and people like cede their will to them. The higher ranking you are, the more will you have, and then you cede it to other people. I love the concept. I just think there were a few times I didn't love the book, and I had a few problems with it. Stellar ending, but for me it didn't make up for the rest of the book that I just didn't love. But it was a solid book, a really solid book, one that made me want to read book 2. And speaking of book 2, Strength of the Few. I love this book, The Strength of the Few. I feel like people that didn't like Will the Many love Strength of the Few. A tier, because I really loved it. It's not on the level of like my greatest books of all time, my favorite books of all time, but it's one of the best reading experiences I've had. It is way different than Will the Many. I can't really say why it's different, but I just liked it more. The Strength of the Few I liked a lot more than Will the Many. And I got it on opening day. Dude, y'all need to catch up on a series or go buy a book on opening day, read it that day. One of the most fun reading days I've ever had. It was so cool. Going to the store early in the morning, picking it up, and then reading it. So much fun. Black Sun by Rebecca Roanhorse. This is the first book in the Between Earth and Sky trilogy, where in this world there's an eclipse, a solar eclipse, and all our different characters kind of converge during this eclipse, and one has political power, one has magical power, and then one has religious power. It's super cool. It's a pre-Columbian inspired series, B tier. This was a really good book one. I really liked Black Sun, and it showed me that fantasy can have other cultures than just like the white European centered inspiration. The Eye of the World by Robert Jordan. The Wheel of Time is probably my favorite fantasy series I've read up to book 3, and I know people say this is not even like the peak of it yet, so I'm so excited to read more. The Eye of the World was a great book 1. I'm going A tier. I love The Eye of the World so much. It introduces Rand, who's a farm boy, and he learns he has powers, and then there's a dark one called Baal-Zaman. Baal-Zaman is sealed away, but he's not really sealed away, or we don't know if he is or not. It's just your classic fantasy series. I love Eye of the World though. The Hunger Games. Man, I love The Hunger Games so much. I didn't get to read this when I was younger. I watched 45 minutes of the first movie. I gotta go A tier. This was fantastic. I think we all know what The Hunger Games is. I don't need to explain it. Katniss Everdeen, fantastic character. Peeta Mellarkey, this dystopian world. It was so fun because I was posting on TikTok and it kind of low-key went viral when I was reacting to the books, at least the first 2. It was really fun experiencing it with hundreds of thousands of people. It was super cool. Catching Fire, this is S tier, baby. This is one of the best book 2s ever. I don't care. Peak dystopian, peak YA. Catching Fire is a political masterpiece in my opinion. I love Catching Fire so much. So good. Mockingjay, didn't love as much. I think this is my first C tier. I just think this book would have benefited a lot from varying away from Katniss more than it did. I don't know. It was very well written, just didn't enjoy it like at all, I'm not gonna lie. Now we got into a few classics. I started with The Picture of Dorian Gray. This was fantastic. This is S tier. It's one of my favorite books of all time. This is basically Dorian Gray sells his soul for eternal youth, but this painting, the picture of Dorian Gray, shows how he's like on the inside. On the outside, he's eternally youthful. He has this facade of looking 20. His face is like grumpy. It's like distorted. It's evil. And that's how he is on the inside, because he's a terrible person. It's a story of how outside influences can affect your life. The Picture of Dorian Gray, fantastic. Then we went to Frankenstein, the 1818 text by Mary Shelley. Also S tier. Frankenstein was fantastic. I feel like Mary Shelley was just a trailblazer for women's literature. This is a story of Frankenstein, the doctor, him creating the creature. It was so cool seeing how the creature reacts to being in a world that's already there, thrown into this world. He's almost a child, but he's not really. He's, looked at as a monster, even though he was just born, basically. But he doesn't know why, and it's tragic, it's bleak, but it's fascinating. It's such a good story. Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. First off, I gotta say, this is not a romance for anybody that's wanting to see the movie coming out. The movie is not gonna be anything like the book. I really like this book. It's either B or A tier. I think I'm gonna go B tier. Terrible people. It's literally just a bunch of terrible people. It's a horror. We see how family trauma goes down into generations and how hurt people continue to hurt other people. Really well written, kind of an archaic writing style, but it's really good. I really liked it. Just not as much as the ones above it. All right, this is probably my most controversial take that I have. The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. Keep in mind, this is my only Kuang book I've ever read. I did not like The Poppy War. The first 100 pages I was really enjoying. I love the premise. I was liking our main character even though people were telling me not to. And I still don't even really hate Rin, like a lot of people do. A little girl thrown into war. It's an Asian-inspired war story with gods that are the power system. And it's a bunch of young people that are just thrown into war. It's brutal. This is C tier for me. The payoff wasn't even worth it with the first book. Now, if I read the whole trilogy, maybe my opinion of this first book would change. I just was not a fan of it. But R.F. Kuang, fantastic writer. She's a really good writer. So I need to read Babel. I need to read Catabasis. I just don't think I'm going to continue Poppy War. Then we got The Coward by Stephen Orion. This is, if you've seen the Frieren anime, it's basically this hero. He went along with this band of warriors to defeat this ice lich in the north. And he's the only survivor. So everybody thinks he's this hero, but he's really not. He just survived. He was the only survivor of this group. He gets called to go back because the ice lich really isn't dead. This is funny. It's an adult style, so there's a lot of vulgar language. This is just a solid book, B tier. I really liked The Coward. It was a really fun read. Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. This is a really famous fantasy book, YA. This is A tier. I love Six of Crows. This is urban fantasy, and it follows Kaz, and they have to commit this heist, like the greatest heist ever. And he gathers this band of misfits, criminals, to do this heist. And Leigh Bardugo reveals the backstories as the story goes on. They are endearing, they made me cry, they're sad, and I love these casts of characters. They're so good. I love them. I need to read book 2. It was also funny. I was laughing at certain points. Six of Crows was great. The Rage of Dragons by Evan Winter. This is another book that I found from Smitty. I loved The Rage of Dragons. Honestly, I think this is my fantasy starter rec for anybody. A path of vengeance for our main character, Tao. Doing right by the ones he loves. It's kind of Game of Thrones meets Gladiator. Some of the best fight scenes. I was not bored whatsoever. It's an African-inspired story, so there's culture and mythology. One of the coolest magic systems ever. It's so cool. Once you read it, you'll see, but this is just hands, cool magic. There's a little romance. I love The Rage of Dragons. It's fast-paced. We're gonna go A tier. I love The Rage of Dragons, man. This is another romance on this list. We got Beach Read by Emily Henry. This was my first contemporary romance, and I loved it. This is A tier again, man. I should mention, if I'm hating a book, I DNF it. I'm not pushing through a book that I don't like. So rarely will you ever see me rate a book like D or F, because if I'm not liking, life's too short to push through books that you don't like. I love Beach Read though. It's about two authors who swap the writing style. One has to write a book in the genre of the other one, and they kind of bond over this writing. They're both authors, and they're at this beach house by the lake. I loved it. It did make me cry at points, and the backstories are super tragic, but it was mainly a happy romance. And I need to read more Emily Henry books. Now we got Ironbound by Andrew Givler. Honestly, super underrated book. It's kind of a lit RPG akin to Solo Leveling. Our main character, Castor, he wants to fuse with a core heart, and a core heart is basically this magical crop where it's a level up tier ranking magic system, kind of like Solo Leveling. But when he's doing this testing to get this core heart, something goes wrong. He is separated from everything he loves, and he has to try to persevere through that. It's heartwarming. This is B tier. I really liked Ironbound. This is a great read. Then we got Shadow the Gods by John Gwynne. One of the most accessible fantasy writers, and basically if we're counting like 2010 onwards, I think he's the best fantasy writer. This is book 1 in the Bloodsworn trilogy. It's set in this world where there used to be these gods, like the Norse gods, you know, but then they fought it out. The battle ended tragically. They all died. But now in this world, what's left are tainted people, which basically means they have the blood of these gods in them, which means they have powers. Another one, the fight scenes are so good, so fluid. I wasn't bored at all. You feel like you're part of this world. This is A tier. I loved it. This is a great fantasy book 1. I love John Gwynne. He follows me on Instagram and TikTok, super cool. I think Andrew Givler also follows me. Shout out Andrew Givler. You might know him on YouTube. He goes by Sigils, if you know Minecraft content. All right, we did it. 45 books. 45 books that got me into reading. We tier ranked them. You could kind of tell I was getting a little more diverse as I went, and I'm getting even more diverse now. Different genres, different country of origin for the authors. Let me know which ones you agree with or disagree with. Let me know what qualms you have with my tier list. I don't know. I feel like I had some hot takes. Some you probably disagree with. I know a lot of those people would have an S tier that I had down in B and C tier, but this was really fun to make. Now you know me a little more. These are the books that have made me a reader. And maybe I gave you some new recs to read. Mainly fantasy, sci-fi, a few romance, some classics, some historical fiction, some horror. Let me know what books I should read based on these, if you have any recs for me. I'm a booktuber now, I feel like. Not because I have a huge following. I don't feel like that matters to me. I'm posting consistently, guys. I'm here to stay. Okay, I'm posting consistently on BookTube. I will see y'all in the next video. I love y'all. Happy reading, and maybe read some of the books that got me into reading, if you're new.